Howdy and welcome to the F1 Hatchet. Did Alonso get his 100th podium to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, or was he taken it away by the penalty for not serving the 5-second penalty he got at the beginning of the race? We will discuss that and see what I know from my knowledge of looking through this weird scenario. We will start off with Fernando starting left of his position on the starting grid. As you can see here in this camera view, that he has ended up left of that box where he should be lined up. This is caused either by the new tire size or possibly the halo having a hard time seeing where that box is. But anyway, he acknowledges that, and he said it was his fault. So he started off left of the grid to start off with. So that was at the very beginning of the race. 3 minutes later, the FIA basically said, hey, we're giving you a 5-second penalty for incorrectly starting of a starting location. That was all good and dandy. Then 30 minutes later into the race, basically, is when Lance Stroll's car ended up giving out on him, and he pulled over to this edge, and it started off with a single yellow and then quickly went to a double yellow. And the first controversy for the FIA was the safety car that was deployed for Lance Stroll's pulling off. It looked like it was well behind the barriers and could easily be done under a yellow flag, but they claimed that due to the camera angles and not knowing exactly where that car was, they had to throw the safety car out and deploy it. And that was at 2031. Well, at 2033, Alonso makes his one and only pit stop on lap 18, serving that 5-second penalty for incorrectly starting location that he was given. He swapped out from mediums to hard tires, and the pit stop took around 8.5 seconds, including that time penalty. At the same time, basically, the remote operations center said he satisfied that 5-second penalty, and the FIA issued a confirmation of that at 2035, a couple of minutes later. So then this is what gets more controversial. So we will start looking at what the actual regulations say. We see regulation 54.3 talking about time penalty. So I said 5-second time penalty. The driver must enter the pit lane, stop in its pit box position for at least 5 seconds, and then rejoin the sprint session or race. The relevant driver may, however, elect not to stop, provided he carries out no further pit stops before the end of the sprint session or race. In such case, 5 seconds will be added to the sprint or race time of the driver concerned. Well, he was early in the race, and so that he could not go the whole race without pit stopping, and there was a required one pit anyway. So he pulled into the pits, had to serve that 5-second penalty. So far, so good, as he served that penalty. But in section regulation 54.4C, it goes into a little bit more detail. It says, while a car is stationary in the pit lane as a result of incurring a penalty in accordance with articles 54.3A or 54.3B above, it may not be worked on until the car has been stationary for the duration of the penalty. So this is the basic understanding, saying, okay, the pit cannot work on the car at all until the 5 seconds has been served. This is why you see all the pit crew gathering around the car and getting ready to change the tires, and do any other work that there was needed, and waiting for that time limit for whatever time penalty that had occurred to tick off before running this. Well, this all gets more confusing because it just says work on the car. well, what does work on the car actually mean? And as you see here, this is an image of the rear jack getting ready for that position after Alonso came into the pit. And he accidentally had the rear jack touch the back of the car. So does this count as work on the vehicle? I know basically they said that you can't touch the car, is what the agreement said. You cannot touch the car because touching the car constitutes work. So we'll get back to what the timeline was. So at 21:24, on the very last lap of the race, the stewards of the FIA received a report from the remote operations center saying that they no longer believe that Alonso satisfied that 5-second penalty and asked for the stewards to investigate. At 21:25, Perez crosses the finish line in first place and wins the race. So not a lot of time for the stewards, to actually re-review before the end of the race. So this, but it has an hour or so since the last communication on this time penalty. So that's where some of the issues come from. It's like, well, I couldn't have determined this earlier in the race to possibly have the other teams have a strategy so that they can overtake, or that the Aston Martins could pull out at least another 10 seconds ahead, of that third place team, and possibly not matter if they had a 10-second penalty or not for not following the penalty. So there's a big discussion there, and there's not a whole lot of information that I could find about why it took the operations center that long to come back and re-review and come back saying that, hey, this was not served correctly. Anyway, the FAA communicates that that Alonso did not, in fact, actually serve that penalty correctly. So they sent out that notification that he's going to be under investigation. And at 21:45, they concluded that that was the case and gave him a 10-second post-race penalty for incorrectly serving the penalty. And of course, this pushed him from third to fourth. This was during the nice podium celebration. So that's why you saw Alonso on the podium. But then in the press conferences, he was pushed back to fourth. So Russell got bumped up to third in this time frame. Then you have in the early morning hours that they had a meeting, discussed with the Aston Martin team representative on the reviewing this decision for saying that they incorrectly served the penalty. The stewards then communicated, at 1:02 that there was a significant evidence to actually review this decision. This included, the minutes from the last SAC meeting and 7 different videos of jacks touching the car during a penalty time service. And so they decided that was enough evidence that they could go back and re-review this decision for the 10-second penalty occurring after the race. Then at 1:15, the FIA make that clarification, says, well, you are correct. This information overrides our current decision. So Alonso's penalty was dropped. This restored his third place position, granting him that podium position, with this granting him that 100th podium for his career. Now this is Alonso's will be in that 6 people that actually have had 100 podiums in their career. So we'll see how that progresses as he seems to be eager for more. Anyway, so what caused all of this havoc? So we see, I said that the rear jack touched the car. Now, this is the gray area. They said there was an agreement with the teams on what work done to the car was. And part of that agreement was that no one could touch the car. The question was where jacks could touch the car. Well, the front jack was the one that was really talked about. Was it said, well, the front jack could touch the car because it guides the car into the pit box. But nothing was defined directly on the rear jack. So Aston Martin argued that since it wasn't specifically excluded that the rear jack could touch the car, when the front jack could, that the rear jack does not constitute work on the vehicle. So we see with the video evidence and the general discussion, which is not in strictly rule definitions, it was just a agreement with all of the teams. There was significant evidence that they did not actually work on the vehicle. Now, this is going to be clarified in the upcoming Australian GP, is my understanding. But overall, that was finally agreed that work was not done on the car, so he could retain his third position and get his 100th podium. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe, and I would appreciate any comments if I have anything wrong or if you think I need to clarify anything more. Thank you very much, and see you on the grid.